6 p.m., March 7th, 2023, I call to order the Saconee County Council meeting. As a reminder, the public has 2 times that they can speak in a council meeting. The first is public comments, and the second is public hearing, if there's one scheduled. Other than those 2 times, the public shall remain silent during the council meeting. Anyone making a disturbance during the meeting will be asked to leave council chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, please ensure that you follow the county's legal prohibition against engaging in partisan political activity, including speech, during this meeting. This meeting is not called for that activity, and such activity is prohibited by law. Moment of silence, please. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you, of course, for this day that you've made, for the opportunity to come together and to do business in a free place where everyone's voices can be heard. And I pray that would happen this evening in love and in kindness to our neighbor. You're good and you're faithful, and your love for us is beyond our comprehension, and that you've made the greatest sacrifice through your Son. Help us to model that in a small way, to sacrifice for our neighbors, to show that same kind of love that is selfless, goes beyond our own wants or desires, and looks toward others. Please let this be your meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Biles, will you lead us? Sure. Pledge.
Stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the February 21st, 2023 regular minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4A.
Is there a motion to approve the February 24th, 2023 strategic planning retreat minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4A.
Mr. Root?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of housekeeping matters. I need 2 motions to amend the agenda to remove matters. The first one is for ordinance 2022-32, Project Greenpaw formally. We'll still have the public hearing, but there's been a request to remove 3rd reading, to postpone that. But take it one at a time. That's the first one I need.
Is there a motion?
Make motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4A.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then the second matter is number 2 on the executive session item, to receive legal advice related to code enforcement procedures and prospective litigation. No longer need that one for this evening.
Is there a motion for that matter?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4A.
Okay.
That was all. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Brock?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have any additional comments this evening.
Public comment session, as a reminder, each person will have 4 minutes to speak. When 3 minutes has gone by, I'll put up a yellow flag. When your time's up, I'll put up a red flag. First person on the list is Mr. Ken Charles.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Charles. Appreciate the time to speak. What I come here tonight is to discuss this idea. I just wonder who came up with the idea of fee in lieu of taxes. This is so wrong. I wonder if somebody on the council came up with this, or did the developer come up with it, or did the landowner come up with it? We need to realize that in the not so far future, our largest taxpayer may shut down, and I'm talking about Duke Power. And instead of giving away our taxes, we need to create ways to get taxes, bring in taxes. The fee in lieu of taxes was designed for industry who comes into the county, builds structures, employs our own people, and contributes to the county. When a developer comes in, one of them is from Delaware, one of them is from Texas, they're not hanging around. They're going to throw those buildings up, they go. You realize that in Clemson University, they require all freshmen to stay on campus their first year. So that means now the next 3 years and grad students are going to be off campus. The current goal at Clemson right now is to increase the enrollment to 30,000. We're 22 and change now. And so they're already pushing dormitories off of campus, and so there's going to be more of this. My question is this: if you give Project Greenpaw this fee in lieu of taxes, how about the project getting ready to start on Shiloh Road? How about the one over here and over there? Once you start this, you can't back out of it. It's yours, it's there. And every builder and developer is going to come with their hand out. We do not need this. It's just a terrible precedent to even start with it. Instead of doing this, the county, gentlemen, we need to look at establishing an impact fee on construction. I can give you facts and figures of municipalities in this state that have established impact fees on construction. Because we have to realize that more residential structures being put up is putting more impact on our emergency services. So these people are starting to collect money. It's going into a fund. Now when they got to buy a new fire truck or a new ambulance or build another fire station, the money is already there rather than coming hand in hand to a governing body and say, we need money. So instead of putting this fee in lieu, they need to look at something else, and I suggest impact fees. And you can grade it out from residential to commercial, everything you want. Thank you.
Let's see, excuse me, Pastor Caritha Benson. I said your name wrong, I really apologize.
It's all right. I'm Pastor Carlethia Benson. I live off of Davis Creek Road in Oconee County. I've lived here most of all of my life. I've attended the public schools here, and I played basketball at Seneca High. The reason I am here, though, is because now I live in the county, which is down below Ravenel School. And I was here 10 months ago. I was here because of the interest I had about our roads, having lines painted on those, for safety's sake. There's a place where I was almost hit recently because you can't see the line at night, it's gone. And therefore somebody came around the curve, almost hit me, I was on my side of the road. My thing is we need to take care of our people, all of our people, not just one area around the lakes or whatever. We need to take care of all of us who pay taxes. I think about it, I pay taxes to the county. What do I get? I don't get anything. Nobody comes by to pick up any of the debris from the storms. We're not getting the roads, lines paved. We also need to know that there's no concern for housing for those who don't have proper housing. We've taken land and let Clemson have it, and I retired from Clemson. I'm a Clemson fan, but I'm also about doing right. And if the land that belongs to us and we have people build hotels and things on those, we need to consider having a portion of the property used so that there are people who have needs, we can meet those needs. I am a person who is a proponent of looking out for everybody. We just pledged allegiance to the flag, and we talked about all of us. not some of us. And I'm here to stand for those who don't have a voice. I'm here to stand for those who have needs and they're not being met in this county. And I'm here to stand for myself as a female who is in a place where I have loud noises and everything else going on, and the traffic is picking up more and more daily. We have more accidents and everything, so I understood what the man was talking about just before me. We got to look at where we are, where we want to go, and how we want to get there. And if, when we get there, are we really ready to take and handle that? Thank you for your time.
Ms. Gwen McPhail.
My name is Gwen McPhail, and as always, I speak, I hope, for the agricultural community. And as much as we'd like to see y'all bring in some ag-oriented industry to the Golden Corner Commerce Park, we know that the chances of that are pretty limited because despite liking to eat at as low a cost as possible, most people don't want to see or smell what it takes to produce enough food for our ever-increasing population. So I hope you'll think of U.S. Engine Valve when you look to recruit the industries that come to the Golden Corner Commerce Park, because it's got greenery, it's got wide spaces, open land, and places for wildlife to exist there within the boundaries of the county. I also ask that you look at Greenville as they cope with their growth, as they work to squeeze in green spaces and trees to battle urban island heating that is now impacting the city. Those are one of the things that we need to think about, green spaces within our city, everything that comes in. Beware of solar panels and the environmental nightmare of their underground infrastructure that will leave acre after acre useless to our children and grandchildren long after their generating capacity has expired. Most of all, I ask that you please keep the lines of communication open as the farming community works to preserve viable ag land and prime soils that keep it available for food production for our community. Not for Greenville, not for Atlanta. We get calls. A lot of our farmers are being asked to go and sell in Greenville and Atlanta because they're already seeing issues with fresh food, and our farmers are going there because the prices are higher. But we want to grow for the citizens of our county, because despite what many people believe now, and I taught a lot of them in school, food is not produced at Walmart, it's not mixed up as Amazon, and they don't grow it at Blue Apron. It's grown by the farmers. They're only the middlemen. Those other guys that you order it from are only the middlemen between the farmers and your table. So let's please keep supporting agriculture and give us time to get settled and organized. Thank you.
Ms. Sandra Land.
Good evening. First, I just want to thank all of you, the council members and staff, for your service to our county and for this opportunity to comment. My name is Sandra Land. I live in Seneca in District 4. I found that recent report, the 2022 Oconee County Year in Review, very informative, with lots to consider in planning the next budget. But this evening I wish to speak in support of the recommendations made for the Department of Voter Registration and Elections. The current staff and commission do a great job with what they have to work with, but I think they need more. I recently saw the results of a survey showing that a number of South Carolina counties with fewer registered voters than Oconee have more full-time staff. Oconee County is growing, which means more voters in the future. Unfortunately, all eligible voters are not currently registered, and registered voters do not always vote. And that needs to change. When more voters are registered and participating in our elections, we must be ready. The security of our voting machines is of particular concern. Many of us have been in the hallways of this building after an election and seen the voting machines along the wall. I'm not an expert on the proper handling of voting machines, but that can't meet the standards or be meeting the standards for maintaining the security of the vote. As it is summarized in the annual report, additional staff and secure space will increase efficiency, maintain security for equipment, employees, and the public, while providing the excellent customer service our voters deserve. I ask the council to address these needs during the budget preparation process so that we can have the safe, accessible, and fair elections that are so necessary for a functioning democracy. And thank you.
Ms. Lynn Marie?
I'm Lynn Morey from Mountain Rest. I'd like to talk to you about Sewer South's 5 pesky questions. Prior to requesting funding, any forthright project planner will ask themselves these basic questions. Who, what, when, where, and finally, why will my project be needed, used, or even wanted? The what of Sewer South is the proposed installation of a high-pressure sewer line from Golden Corner Commerce Park running south along Highway 59 to Interstate 85 at either exits 1, 2, 4, or possibly intersect with all 3 exits, or maybe not. Years before, county council leaderships sold taxpayers on the concept of a 300-plus acre real estate investment opportunity inappropriately called the Golden Corner Commerce Park, or GCCP. Fast forwarding through millions of dollars in expenditures, these golden acres became the terminus of a 13-mile, approximately $8 million sewer line from a wastewater treatment plant on Conross Creek. As currently advertised, the GCC project is a manufacturing / warehouse / distribution park with 260 buildable acres. Yet, and in spite of all the applied lipstick, the millions in expenditures, the hoopla, to this day, the Golden Acreage Park, located in Fairplay, South Carolina, is empty of a single tenant. But still more lipstick can be applied and represents the where of this project called Sewer South. A high-pressure sewer line is proposed to run southward from the still empty Commerce Park and intersect with Interstate 85 near the Georgia state line. To the uncommitted and unknowing, this sewer project is mere acreage beside just another busy highway. Seemingly, this mere acreage is also the perspective of our 4-person Oconee County Council, that's y'all. Very sadly, the project's when just happened, March 4th. At a specially called meeting, council voted 3-0 in support of the taxpayer-financed $13 million Sewer South line. Anything but mere acreage beside a busy highway, the Fairplay land has been the lifeblood for generations of farming families. With Oconee County and the world experiencing diminishing food resources and reserves, Fairplay, South Carolina is this county's prime food-growing ag centerpiece. And we know this because of all the heartfelt verbal testimonies and written petitions of Fairplay farmers who've presented at council meetings right here. Residents report that this sewer line will ultimately decimate their prime farmlands, owing to the urban sprawl and commercial developments which will quickly follow to surround and engulf their farms after that sewer line. Those who cannot speak for themselves are the first settlers and farmers who also poured their lifeblood into this same land. Before them came the South Carolina Cherokee, who collectively inhabited lower towns, the villagers spreading outward, numbering into the thousands. And before the Cherokee, prehistoric man roamed and fished these same agriculturally rich soils around and waters around Cleveland Creek, as evidenced by their shell rings, mounds, and petroglyphs. The where of the proposed sewer line, if carried forward, will negatively impact these invaluable farmlands. And the line will also forever alter the history found here. County Council's vision is based on a nebulous Hollywood notion of build it and they will come, but will forever decimate Oconee's prime farmland. The why of Sewer South is apparently about dollars and a Hollywood dream. Funded by grants and taxpayer dollars, the sewer project will bankrupt and destroy Fairplay and its farmers. Finding purple zebras in the South will prove easier than locating a Fairplay farmer in favor of this sewer line. So the last question is the who of this sewer project, and it's the peskiest of all the questions. Fairplay residents and farmers are surely opposed to the line and have actively voiced their oppositions without reliable, accountable funding sources Who stands to benefit by its being established? Or are we witnessing local money squandering with much lipstick application and maybe a few purple zebras along in the mix? Pesky questions. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. John Murray?
Good evening. I'm here to talk about Sewer South. I'm here to tell you that it's great to know, we have one county councilman that's got brains and common sense. Thank y'all. I hope y'all can catch up.
Mr. Luke Moore?
Hello, Luke Moore from Fair Play. Most everybody knows me. Just wanted to talk about agriculture a little bit in Fair Play. I understand Sewer South is basically a done deal, which is fine. It is what it is at this point. But the thing that the farmers are so concerned about is lifestyle change. And I know that they was up here and they filled the room and they talked about how they farm for generations and lifestyles are going to change because of the Sewer South bringing in industry. Well, my family builds. Mr. Hart, and he's known my family since I was a little bitty feller. So, but what's going to happen is some farmers do want to sell their land. It's true, and they will, and they'll sell it to a developer, which is fine. Everybody should have the right to sell their land to whoever they want to. But what's going to happen is, as those parcels of land become developed and the subdivisions come in, all of a sudden, all these new neighbors, not necessarily all are going to come in happy with the agricultural area that they've moved into. So what's going to happen is, and this is a guarantee, what's going to happen is these people are going to move in, which is fine. Anybody that wants to come should be able to. They're going to move in, and then they're going to say, okay, we're on our way to school, we're on our way to work, and we're getting behind a tractor with a hay bale hooked to it, going from one field to the next. And he's slowing us down, making us late for work. It's a safety hazard. I mean, I've watched videos of people complaining about the combines on the road, talking about how it's a safety issue. So they will come here, and they will ask you to do something to try to change these things. And this is what scares the farmers. So what I wanted to ask is, if there a way, I've talked with Mr. Mize already, is there a way that the county can do some kind of ordinance around the agricultural area to basically protect these farmers from the development that will come? Development is going to come. As soon as industry comes, development comes. I don't care who says what, that's the fact. But is there a way to create an ordinance to where the smell of chicken manure on the fields is not going to be jeopardized because the subdivisions don't like it? If they move in beside a field that gets sprayed twice a year, they need to understand that, and the farmers need to be protected. And we can't say it's just common sense. You know, nobody's going to say that because common sense ain't always what rules. So we need to see if we can make some kind of ordinance to have the two things work together. If Sewer South is going to exist and be a reality, which it is, then can we also at the same time protect these few things that's going to scare everybody? So that's what I'm wanting to ask. I'm wanting to ask if you'll do that. And also, considering that Sanctuary Point's been pulled, considering that the Welcome Center is the only thing in that area now, and so unless there's already another plan in the works, the Welcome Center is not going to be able to carry enough gallons per day to basically pay for that stretch of sewer. That means that all of us taxpayers is fixing to have to pay for it, but you can't tell us at what price, and you can't tell us for how long. That's a problem. That's a problem that should be addressed. If we're going to spend taxpayers' money, if I'm going to be on the hook to pay for this sewer, I should know how much I'm going to have to pay and for how long. But we need to take that money possibly, at least for the time being, and maybe put it toward the roads. Because if industry does come, Highway 182 can't handle it. From Isbell Road to Wilderness Road, you probably got a good 50 potholes in a half-mile stretch. I mean, it's plumb near to gravel. You gotta, seriously, everybody drives one tire in each lane so they don't knock their truck out of alignment. So, I know my time's up, thank you.
Ms. Lillian Lusk.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm not sure what's left to say since all the funding has been passed and looks like the sewer thing is coming. I will say I'm very happy that the Sanctuary Point lease fell through. My husband works for the Army Corps of Engineers. He says it'll take years before any kind of lease is ever going to be able to be approved again. So why that money is going to that area, I have absolutely no idea. Ultimately, I know that industry coming in and sewer coming in is going to be detrimental to the farmers. But we know that ultimately it is up to the farmers to decide whether they want to sell their land or not. But the question is, what can we do to incentivize them to want to keep their land? Well, one of the things has always been agricultural easements. Now, I know that there are plenty of farmers that live in my area that have told me that if they could get the money right now, they would put their land in an agricultural easement, but the money's just not, it's just not there right now. I know that our county has something called a conservation bank, where that we're, trying to save wildlife habitat and green space, and there's money going towards that. And I'm wondering how much of that money does go towards agricultural easements, or if we can actually put more money into agricultural easements. I know, I guess you work with the NRCS with that. So the question is, how do we incentivize farmers to want to keep their land? It's very attractive for them to sell at these very high prices that will be offered to them. So I did hear somebody talking a little bit earlier about impact fees. And I know that Durham said something about, well, we've got these big developments coming in and the county's going to have to supply infrastructure. And so we need to collect impact fees to counteract that. But what about an economic assessment of agricultural land in the lower part of the county? What's the impact of this industry coming in on the agricultural land? Is there a way to assess impact fees to industry coming in that can go back to the county and then that money can be put back into the land bank? The only way we're going to preserve land is if farmers realize that they can actually make a dime. They can get some money right now for the easements, and then the land is left for perpetuity for farming. That in itself gives future farmers the ability to buy farmland at a reasonable price. We've got to, you said you wanted to do something about preserving farmland. Mr. Elliott, you said you did. Mr. Hart, you didn't say a thing about that during that meeting. But let's say, put your money where your mouth is. Let's put some of this county money into easement. We need to preserve green space. We need to preserve our farming community and that way of life. But I just beg you to please think about putting some money into easement programs, because that's the only way these farmers are going to keep farming, is if they're incentivized in a way to not be tempted down the road to sell at these incredibly high prices. Thank you very much.
Okay, council member comments, and I'd like to here again thank the public for coming out. We want to hear from the public. I wish we'd fill up the room like we did last council meeting, every council meeting, but thank you. Other council member comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The fee in lieu of was brought up. That was actually the state of legislate. South Carolina passed that. It was in 1997, so it's on the state, scstatehouse.gov site. I'll have Ms. Brock put it in the backup material. But it was actually passed in 1997. There's been a couple of amendments to it. But while you were speaking, I went on there and pulled up. And the main reason why they did this, the General Assembly finds that, this is number 2 listed on there, since South Carolina's property tax rates as applied to manufacturing and certain commercial properties are disproportionately higher than those applied to other property in South Carolina, This disparity and the resulting property tax burdens historically have impeded new and expanded businesses in South Carolina. So the General Assembly acted on that because of what other states around us were, how they treated industry and stuff like that. So that's when the fee in lieu of kind of came in. So this is actually nothing that the county does. We just use that to hopefully entice an industry to come here. And I assure you, they pay their fair share in taxes. And not only that, what they bring to the table. So that, but I'll have that on there because I think it's definitely worth reading to kind of understand where that came from, how it's applied to certain projects and those certain fees. I will agree with you, as we apply that to certain things like student housing. What does this county want? How much do we want to entice a developer to come here? That is one of the things that this council gets to decide on how much we give or if we give none. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up because I think it's worth stating that state legislate passed in '97 on that. So again, I'll make sure that goes in the back of the material was brought on that. So that's pretty much it. Mr. Morey, everybody up here has common sense. We're out here to do what we think is right. My biggest concern is I just want to make sure when the money's spent that there's a return on the investment. So I don't want an attack on any council member up here, and I don't see it that way, but I'm just saying that, we're all up here trying to make sure that we think we're doing what's best for our district and our area. And sometimes it may be 3 or 4 years down the road you find out it wasn't. And so that's why, it's like Mr. Elliott said, we're grateful to hear from everybody because I think we have more involvement, in the last, 5 years than we've had in quite some time. And that goes for a couple of things. The video that we have out here that people can listen to, I know it helps me watch planning meetings and different things like that. There's more things out there than ever before to actually learn what's going on in the county, in the state, in the U.S., and in the world. So I'm very appreciative that council's effort to continue to make sure that we are putting this stuff out there for everybody to learn. And sometimes even us up here at council, it may be the second or third reading before we learn certain arms to projects. Some of this stuff is not always known to us, so I constantly hear somebody say, well, why'd you change in second reading? Why'd you change in third reading, but you report first? Sometimes we do title only in first, and there is no information, even if we're doing a fee in lieu of. We don't always know that investment. So I think as council as a whole, we agree on a lot and we disagree on some, but, to me, I think there's an ability for all of us to kind of move forward and do what we think is best, even if we're not always in agreement. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Luke, you talked about farming, and I constantly hear Right to Farm Act. The problem, what I've seen in some of the lower parts of the state, is there is a Right to Farm Act, but there's also the ability of a developer to bury a farmer under paperwork, legal paperwork, which can be very difficult on that farmer. And most of them just kind of throw their hands up and walk away from it, and end up selling it at that developer. So where, out there where I live, you may pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 an acre. These guys are willing to come in and pay $20,000 an acre, and no farmer's going to be able to make a return on that. So, yeah, there's Right to Farm Act on there, and I tell you what, if your neighbor's with a farmer, they're always willing to help you. Conservation Bank Board, I want to touch on that. Excuse me, this pollen's got me. So we live in a wonderful place set there in pollen season. So, Conservation Bank Board is not tax money. I always love to clear that up. If you hadn't paid attention to how that goes, there's a lot of money that's donated by Duke Power that goes into that. It is used to protect a lot of farmland. up, on there for those easements out there. That's actually comes through the Conservation Bank Board and then comes back, to council after that. So there's no tax money that's put forth, for that. That's all, money. And I don't know, Ms. Brock, if you want to touch on that.
You're correct, sir. By ordinance, there are no allocations of ad valorem tax dollars expended or utilized from the Oconee County Conservation Bank. The Conservation Bank formulated, I think, 8 or 10 years ago, back here off the top of my head. We have some recommendations that should be coming from the Ag Advisory, or the Ag Preservation Task Force. And that presentation, Ms. Lisa Jones will be here. Most of the task force members will be here on March 21st for that presentation. There may be a couple of recommendations. I have not read the final report. I just got it this afternoon while we were in budget meeting. There may be some recommendations in that for council consideration to change to allow for certain funding mechanisms to be allocated to the Conservation Bank Board for the preservation, specifically for the preservation of agricultural farmland in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
sir, I'd
Hall.
like to. Ms. Lewis, the reason I didn't break my arm patting myself on the back, I am a farmer. And these two gentlemen that was so appreciative of the farmer, they live in a subdivision. I live on the farm. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll move on. Excuse me. My one's getting to me too. Public hearing for the following ordinance. Ordinance 2022-32. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a public infrastructure reimbursement agreement between Oconee County, South Carolina, and Project Green Paw with respect to certain property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source revenue credits to reimburse Project Green Paw for certain infrastructure costs incurred, authorizing the execution and delivery thereof, authorizing the placement of certain property within the boundaries of a multi-county industrial or business park, or the creation of a new multi-county industrial business park, and other matters related thereto. No one has signed up for public hearing 2022-32. I close 2022-32. We're not having third reading tonight. Second reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2023-04. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of real property lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and the Rosa Clark Medical Clinic Association, Inc. as lessee in relation to certain county-owned property located adjacent to the Oconee County Magistrate's Office located at 1600 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4A.
First reading of the following ordinance, ordinance 2023-06. An ordinance authorizing the conveyance of certain real property owned by Oconee County consisting of approximately 0.15 acres and being a portion of tax map number 520-36-10-017, parcel 1, and authorizing the receipt of certain real property owned by Pine Ridge MHC SC LLC consisting of approximately 0.25 acres and being a portion of tax map number 240-00-04-023, parcel 2, in exchange for the conveyance of parcel 1 and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4O.
Discussion regarding action items. Title, Axion Interview Equipment, Software and Storage, Department Sheriff's Office, amount $99,772.85. Procurement was approved by council in fiscal year 2022-23 budget process. Budget $99,772.85. Project cost $99,772.85. Balance zero. It's staff's recommendation that council, 1, approve entering into a 5-year agreement with Axion Enterprises, Inc. of Scottsdale, Arizona for Axon interview and associated equipment for an amount of $99,772.85. 2, authorize the county administrator to execute the payment schedule agreement in substantially the same form as attached hereto, or such material changes as benefit the county upon advice of the county attorney, along with such other documents necessary to make this purchase. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
That is 4-0.
Title, change order number 1, PO 55160, Smith Gardner, Inc., Department of Solid Waste, amount, original purchase order $87,070, change order 1, $30,000, total $117,070. Procurement was approved by council in fiscal year 2022-23 budget process. Budget, $117,070, project cost $117,070, balance 0. It's staff's recommendation that council, 1, approve change order number 1, PO 55160 to Smith Gardner, Inc. in the amount of $30,000 for the total purchase order of $117,070. 2, authorize the county administrator to execute documents for this change order. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
That is 4-0.
Procurement RFP 20-07, title, hauling and disposing of solid waste, Department of Solid Waste, amount not to exceed approved 2023-24 budget amount. Funding will be requested in the 2023-24 fiscal budget process. It's staff's recommendation that council, 1, approve RFP 22-07, hauling and disposing of solid waste to Waste Management RB landfill of Homer, Georgia, in the amount not to exceed the approved 2023-24 budget amount for the expenditure. 2, authorize the county administrator to execute the contract documents and renew this contract for up to 2 additional 10-year terms, as long as the amount does not exceed the amount budgeted for hauling and disposing of solid waste and the services provided are satisfactory. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We're still getting the deal on hauling our solid waste now. I know it's going up, but based on what I was assuming that they would submit on their bid process, it's still a very, very fair amount, per ton. So, and I know that cost is rising because the amount of trash is, there. But I know Swain will probably be doing his budget and stuff that'll come in and show how much trash we're hauling on.
We are. And while it doesn't necessarily quote unquote feel like a deal, it is a cost of doing business. As the county continues to grow, so does the requirement for waste disposal. The small haulers are bringing in approximately 35% more than they were at some time. We have to accept out of county waste, and our waste stream is just increasing, and it's just a cost of managing solid waste for disposal purposes. Just for notation though, Mr. Chairman, members of council, and members of the public, this amount does not go into effect until the budget is approved for the fiscal year of 2023-2024. But the contract has to be signed before that budget date.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. That's the reason that recycling is so important. For is their cardboard, our plastic bottles, their glass, cans, metal, and that way we're not paying to send it out.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hart, excellent point.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
That is 4-0.
Okay, council consideration approval of the Coney County Site Acquisition Grant application for the South Carolina American Revolution Site Grants, Planning, Acquisition, Development, Renovation Program, contingent on grant, grant award. Ms. Brockman, want to say a little bit about that?
I would, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Mr. Shirley had a previous engagement, could not be here this evening, and the grants administrator is on vacation, so I am soloing this request. Coney County has an opportunity to receive grant funding for a property site acquisition We have purposefully not disclosed the location because this is of historic preservation significance. The funding would come from the PRT Capital Projects millage. It has significant historical preservation opportunities for the county. It does have petroglyphs. The cost for the acquisition upfront is $225,000. 80% of that would be covered by the grant, which means the $45,000 request upon grant award, should we be awarded the grant, would be requested of council.
Okay.
The intention of this, sir, if I may continue, I'm sorry, I should have tacked this on in the beginning, would be to do a preservation project and open this to public as part of a park. But it wouldn't be a traditional county park, like no overnight accommodations are envisioned up front. It just doesn't have the layout or the site readiness for that. It may come over time to that, but right up front, the idea would be to preserve the Native American artifact and petroglyph that are there.
Ms. Brock, what do you mean by preserve? I mean, are we gonna go in there and clean up this place? I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, but are we gonna go in there and, get rid of the bushes and the brambles and all to where these sites can be, visual or be walked around and seen?
So for the preservation part, I guess the word protection should probably have been used interchangeably, and I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. The protection, because the artifact that, the most interesting of the petroglyphs are currently out in an uncovered and natural environment. So yes, sir, there would be some cleanup, so to speak, and it would be open to the public once certain measures were made to make the grounds preserved in their current form. Because, you know, as the rainfall and weather leaves on the ground, they do have an impact on the visibility of the petroglyphs.
Okay, so it is the Administration Department project, $225,000, Oconee County portion, $45,000. Staff's recommendation, the council support the site acquisition grant application for the purpose of acquiring this historically significant site and approve the commitment for matching funds if awarded. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
That is 4-0.
Okay, council committee reports, law enforcement, public safety, health and welfare, Mr. Davis.
Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee met on February 21st, 2023. Sheriff Mike Crenshaw gave law enforcement salary updates. He provided updates to the Oconee County law enforcement salaries, noting that to stay competitive with other law enforcement agencies, salaries will need to continue to increase. Several incentives were presented by Sheriff Crenshaw to the committee that he believes will help retain. Motion was approved 3-0 to make a recommendation to full council to increase the law enforcement starting pay to $44,000, along with a increase of pay for others' years of service to avoid compression. The discussion regarding the development of an ordinance to foster the identification and safe repair and removal of structures that have become unsafe and for occupancy as a result of fire damage. Committee discussed the current IPMC codes that Oconee County adheres to related to burned out unsafe structures within the county. Oconee County Attorney Mr. Root received, and the committee unanimously voted to have staff draft an ordinance for consideration that would require the elimination of unsafe structures due to fire damage or natural disasters within the county, and bring that back before the committee before being brought to full council. Next law enforcement meeting is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Board and commission appointments. Building Codes Appeals Board, one at-large seat. We've got one questioner requesting reappointment and one questioner requesting initial appointment. Are there any nominations? If not, we'll move on to the next one. Conservation Bank Board, District 4, vacant seat. District 4, one questionnaire requesting appointment.
Ms. Brock, you have that,
I did not,
you got it right here, there it is. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate, Taylor Howard.
All in favor?
That is correct.
Okay. Board of Zoning Appeals, District 1, one questionnaire requested reappointment. I'm not ready for that on District 1 yet. Planning Commission, District 1, one questionnaire requesting reappointment, 2 questionnaires requesting initial appointment. I nominate Ms. Teresa Spicer. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
That is 3-1.
I got a question. She was nominated once before and didn't carry a majority. Does that have anything to do with it being renominated?
We don't have any rule that would bar that nomination.
Okay.
Agricultural Advisory Board, District 2, and at-large vacant seats. District 2, one questionnaire requesting appointment. Okay, we'll move on. One at-large, 2 questionnaires requesting appointment. I nominate Mr. Joshua Owens. All in favor? Aye.
That is correct.
Oconee Economic Alliance member appointment by council. I nominate Mr. Don Mize. All in favor? Aye.
That is 4-0.
Okay. Council will go into executive session for the following. Receive legal advice and discussion opioid litigation and recent settlement developments. Not doing the next one. 2, discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Feather. And 3, council discussion on personnel matter related to county administrator. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Motion go.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.